All right, guys, here we go. And I'm going to share the screen.
Is that a digital background, Mitch, by the way?
Yeah, it is. It
Oh,
is.
okay.
Brian Buffini is excellent. If you guys ever get a chance to take his course, his whole theory is business by referral. And believe me, his dialogue is excellent, and he's very funny too. So if you got the time, and Marsha Richardson, the manager at the office, she teaches the course, and it's excellent. Believe me. So
We'll make note of that, definitely.
okay. Normally, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the MLS, which is www.fresnomls.com, and that'll take you to your start page. And you guys are all seeing that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is basically the way you're going to log in and everything. I have a 4-digit access number, but I bet you anything, by the time you guys are on there, it's probably going to be a 5 or 6-digit agent ID number. And
It's grown quite a bit.
what's that?
It's grown quite a bit to go from 4 to 5.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah, well, I think some of the agents like Senior and stuff like that, he's got like a two-digit number, so
99.
don't tell him I said that, okay? Yeah. All right. Basically, what you're gonna do when you start from scratch is you're gonna try. Oh boy, the virtual page. You want to get the tax record information of the property. Okay, that's where the start of any evaluation is going to be. When you look up a particular property, the MLS will have it in there. You can look it up by the tax record, but we're going to do it from scratch. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the tax on the top of the menu, and you're going to look up the address. And I will send you this property profile as well. So, and what you're going to do is you're going to type in the address. You can do a name or an APN number from there as well. So it's 10179. And you know you're typing it in right if you get this preview pane. So this one on Belmont is probably likely going to be the property. If you get nothing, that means that you're probably typing it in incorrectly. Yeah, this property's in Sanger. Noe had talked to me that she said it was probably on Vicarage. It's a 3-bedroom, 2,112 square feet home, 2-bath, and 4-car garage, and on 6.9 acres. Okay. Normally what I do, because you look at this profile over and over again, is that I don't know if you can see that, I just disappeared, but I usually highlight all the key items, the address, the owners, the square footage and stuff, just so that your eyes can track it a lot easier. So I'm going to download this document. Okay. Okay. Oh, wow, it's showing up on my other page. Hold on one sec, guys.
Is this in the country? Is this property in the country?
Yes, it is. I believe. Oops. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you how I do this on the screen because I don't have my pen with me. But what we're going to do on this thing, and this is one of the techniques that they didn't talk about yesterday when they were doing the listing. But when you're doing a listing agreement, one of the things that you want to make sure that you let the sellers of the property know, or the buyers, is that you evaluate properties not just by comparison, but exactly the same way that the appraisers do it. And appraisers hate real estate agents, okay? That's just like a given. Real estate agents are always trying to press the envelope either one direction or the other, irregardless of how the market is going. So they're going to try to influence the appraiser, to their advantage. But appraisers can only appraise for what the market will provide. And you need to understand that it slides up and down depending on the complexity of how nice the property is or how poor the property is. Like in a good market, there's always somebody that's trying to manipulate these appraisers and everything. So you have to understand how they do it so that you can explain it to the sellers how they do it to let them understand they can't just call a number. Okay, because that's what they were talking about yesterday, was strategizing with the sellers about what they think they can get for the property. They don't control what a person will pay for the property. The appraisers control what a person will pay for the property. And if someone is out of their mind and they want to pay above that, well, it's up to them. And that's like the Bay Area in a nutshell. A lot of the properties in San Jose and LA, I mean, they're bid up 100,000 cash with no loan contingencies. So that's their market. It's different than ours, but it's just one of those things. So if you guys want, 1.2 million is the average sales price in the Bay Area. So I mean, man, that's like paying yourself $25,000 every time you get one side, man.
Yeah, San Jose is like median price is like 1,990,000 something.
My friend lives in a $2.5 million home. She works for Google, and the outside of her house looks like a house like in Fresno High. It's just like a regular old square house, but it's really big. They added on 3,000 square feet to this regular old house. So it's crazy how expensive things are over there. But anyway, okay. What you're gonna do, and I can't draw it on the screen, unfortunately. I didn't bring my pen today. But you're going to take the square footage, this 2,112 square feet, and you're going to multiply it by 20%, okay? So I'm going to get my calculator up and put it on my other page. And what you're doing is you're trying to derive a higher upper limit of the square footage that you can use and a lower limit, okay? So it's 2112, excuse me. And you're going to multiply it by 20%, 0.2, and that's going to give you the variance that you have for this property. And one of the techniques that I use is that I will write that directly onto the paper. And later on, I'll show you the technique of what to do when you meet the appraisers, because you don't want to just tell them that this is what the property's worth and this is the comps that I use. You want to show them that you did it exactly the same way they did it, so that they'll believe what your price you would like to set it at is derived from, because you're going to do it the same way they did it. Okay, so you're going to take that 422 and subtract it from the 2112. So subtract that from 12. And that's going to give your lower limit of 1,689. And then you're going to take that 2112 and add that 422. And that's going to give your upper limit of what you can compare to that property in a normal market. Okay, this thing's on 6 acres, so we may have to go up or down, but I'll show you when to go up or down. Okay, so that's that information. I don't know if you can see it on this piece of paper. It keeps making me disappear, but there's a little triangle that I drew on the bottom showing the upper and lower limits that you can use as an evaluation. Okay, so we're going to pop back to the MLS. And most evaluations nowadays, they used to do it by zip code and other ways like that, but they're going to be done by radius search, okay? Exactly the same way the appraisers do it. Go up to search, hit the radius search, add the address for the property, and then we're going to start pulling information from there. So it's 10179 East. Oops. Belmont Avenue. And there. You do need to have the whole entire address in there, 93657. Okay, we're going to compare it to, this is a residential property, single family. Here's where it comes in. We're going to use all the actions like they were talking about yesterday, which is going to be, our competition, the things that we're going to be competing against. The pending sales, these two are going to be those that have already, have contracts and haven't closed yet. So that that's what's a possibility of them selling. This is them testing the market. This is them getting them accepted. And the solds, are the upper and lower limit of what is currently possible. This date range automatically goes back 6 months. And that 6 months is exactly how far back the appraisers can go. Okay, so if there's a perfect comp that's like 7 months, 7 months old, you may not be able to use that comp, but only in certain circumstances. And then you have to backtrack back to explain why you use that comp. And there's a pecking order of how that works. And I'll show you how that works, okay? We may reach that in this particular example because I'm not sure how many properties are on that small of acreage. I mean, it's usually 2 acres or 20 acres or 40 acres. This 6.9 is kind of an unusual size, so we'll go from there. As we're putting in this information, the little ticker here should show you how many properties are coming up. And right now, we're not coming up with anything around this property within a quarter-mile distance, so it's probably in a rural area. But we'll adjust as we go. And then square footage, this is where you're going to put that 1689 and where you're going to put the 2534, okay?
What is that?
Still no properties popping up. So normally we would put the lot size in after that, to shrink down the number of properties that we have around it, but there's nothing available now. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand the distance, okay? This thing right here shows how far the radius is that we're going to be searching. So now we're at a ½ mile away from the property, nothing similar. We're a mile away from the property. Man, what is going on here? Am I not putting in the right address or something? 179 East Belmont Avenue. Man, there's got to be houses that are at least that size. Well, let's see. Well, no, thanks. A property that's like absolutely no. There's got to be houses of that size. Okay, there's 3 as we go 2 miles out, but this one's in Fresno, one in Sanger, and this one's in Fresno, so really not that alike. This one on McKinley that's in Sanger, like I said, this is on a little bit bigger acreage maybe. Did you guys ever remember that one thing that I told you? There's one number that you have to remember in real estate, and it's that 43,560. It's how many square feet are in an acre.
Oh, yeah. That's
so this is like
11.
Yeah, 210. Is it 210?
So Mitch, as you're looking at those 3 properties right there on the screen, you're just looking for similar specs, pretty much.
Right now, we're looking for anything because, golly, there's just like nothing around this property, and it might be that it's very rural. So we'll just have to see. 43,560.
Okay.
That's not bad. That's actually not a bad comp right here. This is sold and closed. Now, see how it was listed for 525? That's somebody stretching, and it closed in at 495. Better Homes and Garden. Oh, that's Irma's son.
That
Irma's,
525.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, the 525 number. That's what it was listed for. You said.
Yeah, listed for 525, sold for 495. And I'm not sure if he's one that does any flips, but he does represent Wathan Castanos on the resale side. So the new builders contract a lot of people to do their resale. If you can get in with one of those companies, that'd be a really good thing for you guys to do. So this looks like somebody probably put a little bit of money into it, but it's not a flip. It looks like they live there. Noy, do you know anything about the property? Are they going to be fixing it up or?
I only know a little bit. He said that he have them clean it up, something like that. But,
okay.
Yeah. He said, "Oh, I'm not. I'll be ready in about like 3 weeks." That's what he said, because he gotta clean it up. So probably somebody lived there, but he didn't tell me the whole detail yet.
Okay. And aerial photography is very revealing. Your property is about 6 acres. This guy's about 4 or 5. It's going to be about maybe a little bit bigger than that, maybe about that size. So this is actually a pretty decent comp. A lot of times when you're dealing with a property that's very rural and there's not a lot of information, you may want to call the listing agent, like call Rob, and then ask him what the situation of the sale is. In his particular case, he sold it for a lot less than what he had it listed at. His days on market right here was 71. There's not a lot of comps showing, so we can't really see what the average days on market would be. But yeah, it's a little spread out all over the place. These are the days on market. The back number is the accumulative days on market. They could have been pending. They could have taken it off the market to do repairs. Normally they match back and forth, but if you see the different ones like that, it could be that they took it off the market for some reason. These properties are I would probably kick out because they're not on, anywhere near the same, lot size. This one's probably the best one that you have right now. Now, this is where the whole evaluation thing comes in. We're going to be going further and further out away from the center of the property because there's nothing for you to compare it against. One sold is not going to be able to dictate what the sale is. So you're going to go back to revise the criteria. And you're going to start to pull back even more on rural properties, which I'm assuming this is rural, actually. Okay, now we've got too many. There's like 31, okay, as we go to 3 miles away. So what you want to do is you want to start adjusting like the lot size. So I'm going to go anywhere between 2 acres and maybe 10 acres and see if there's anything that pops up. The default is acreage on the lot size. So we've got 7. That's a decent amount. Okay, let's see if they're close. Okay. These are not too bad. This is that. They're right in that wheelhouse. So I can see why Rob was in that 500 range. I mean, this is a real big property. No, it's a small property. 630. So top end of about 700 and a low end at about a little under 5. And then Rob was right in there. What was he at? 195, right? So this guy, your range for your guy, depending on how nice the property is, and this is one of the things that I'll do is, and hopefully Google's up to date with it. It's 10179, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have any questions so far?
The only question: when you're doing the comp, I mean, when the appraiser gives his numbers, do you want it to be, in that same ballpark, or
you want to explain to him how it's going to be, how you derived it, and I'll explain it to you guys as soon as we find at least 3 comps to and the key to the language is you want to bracket the price, meaning that you have something on the low side and something on the high side that justifies exactly where yours is at. And it doesn't have to be spot on. None of these things are as exact as people think they are, like, dollar for dollar. Like, oh my gosh, I have granite. This guy's got granite. It should be exactly the same value. It's just by comparison. So if it's close enough in amenities, you can probably use that comp as, to justify your price. But it's not dollar for dollar. Some guy has a $90,000 pool and another guy's got a $15,000 pool. It's kind of even out at about 20 grand. So that's why a lot of times, when my friends buy a property and then they want to do some extravagant overbuilding, it's like, hey man, in this neighborhood, that's probably not going to suit you. You might want to buy into a nicer neighborhood and then, maybe do the upgrades that you want to do. That kind of advice I think people appreciate. So anyway, but here's the street view of that property. And I usually save all this data on my Dropbox so I can refer back to it. You know, the comps will be there, a photograph of what the property looks like, things like that. And I'm not sure. Looks like, believe it or not, on Belmont. Let's see if the house is right there. Looks like an older house, maybe, if that's the property. I can't really tell.
No, hard to tell, huh?
It's hard to tell. It's so set back. But hopefully that's part of the house, because that shop, I would kill for a shop. And
Is this a comparing property that's right here?
this is the subject property.
Gotcha.
So this is the property that Noi possibly could be listed. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I did the wrong thing. So it's probably an older house. It looks like it probably has a roof that's maybe a little older, maybe knocking on 20 years old. I'm not sure when this photo was taken, but it looks like they may need to do some yard work if it hasn't been too long ago. But it definitely has usefulness. If this is part of that property, there's people that'll be interested in that. And did he say if he had any kind of ag on it or anything?
I'm sorry?
Does he have any kind of ag on it, like any kind of like fruit trees or anything like that?
I think so, because, you know, that's what he does, all the farm stuff, so.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Ryan was texting me right now. Okay.
It's
Here's what we're gonna do. Hopefully the satellite view is gonna help
So,
us.
Miss, when you comes the property, is it usually you go like half a mile or 1 mile or?
It depends. Now it's like this is the summation that we're gonna have, and this is what's going to show the appraiser that you know what you're doing. When your normal real estate agent looks at a property, he's gonna say, "Hey, these are the comps I got. This is the price range that we're working at." What you're gonna do is you're going to write him little notes about how you got to it. It's like, hey, John, let's say his name's John, right? You say, hey, John, I did a radius search using 20% GLA up and down. That GLA stands for gross, what does GLA stand for, man? Well, gross living space, I think, or something like living area. And I went 20% GLA, which is the way the appraisers do it. I went out half a mile, and there were no comps available near the subject property. I pulled out all the way up to 3 miles, and I was able to get 23 properties or whatever it was that we pulled up. I minimized the number of comps by putting in the plus or minus 2 to 10 acres of land, and I got it down to 7 properties. Of these 7 properties, there was a price range between 500,000 and 700,000 based on the amenities on the subject property. And in comparison to these properties, I slid down the price from 700 down to, like, let's say 525 or something like that. I didn't look at all the comps yet, but you would look for the one that's most like the subject property. This one's a difficult one to do because you would have to see exactly what the property's like. And in this particular case, I think that is the house that we were looking at. That is the shop that we were looking at. And this is the total amount of land that we're looking at, okay? So that's good, because the house alone might be a difficult sale, but with the land and the shop, that's going to be something that's desirable. I don't know if Sanger's that hotbed or anything like that, but if that was in Clovis, that would be worth a lot of money. Let me tell you. I mean, it's still worth a lot of money. It's a $500,000 sale, but that's the way you would package that particular one. You guys got any questions?
Question. What do you mean specifically? You'd have to see what the property's like actually go down to the property itself.
Yeah, most like the way Marcia teaches the class, a lot of times you're going to be doing two appointments, okay? You're going to go into the appointment and, introduce yourself, kind of build some rapport with the sellers and get a good look at the property, okay? Because like let's say I had pulled up all the best comps and they were really talking up the property. And then you found out that it was an older property and you're comparing it against the newer ones, you're going to have the wrong comps for the property. So you want to take a really good look, see what kind of repairs that you can point out with your eyes visually, and ask them honestly if they've got if they know that the property is in need of any repairs, and then subtract that down from the next closest property that looks like that property. When people say like number one, if you want to turn off the appraiser, tell them, and every single person in this office and any other office does it. They'll say, well, John, this property was $175 per square foot. That's an immediate like red flag to the appraiser that you don't know what you're doing, because they do everything by comparison, especially on this kind of property. If you do those kind of valuations like the appraisers do, like I had to do a ton of them for the banks, it's they never do it by average. They do it by comparison, property to property. So like they'll say, okay, this property on Belmont looks like this property over here, but it's got this, this, and this. So it's just by comparison, and then just give it a dollar amount by how valuable that amenity is. Like if you had a pool, it's just plus or minus 5 or 10,000. It's not like dollar for dollar 90,000 or 15,000. So all this stuff is it's harder on this property because there's not too many properties like it. But properties that are in the city like Clovis or Fresno or anything like that, those are easy to do because there's like, if anything, one of the things that you want to find is a model match, which is exactly the same floor plan with very similar amenities like track homes. Track homes are easy to do. So, the bank, knows that they're easy to do and they expect you to get it done like in the same day. So, but something like noise property, this may be one where they'll give you a couple days to do, and find properties and stuff like that. So right now we have a window of opportunity between 500,000 and let's say 700,000 with Rob's property selling at what was it, like 495 or something?
495.
Yeah. So you've got that kind of range that you can kind of put it at. When you go in 3 weeks, you're going to take a look at what they've done with the property.
You want to come with me? You want to come with me?
Of course, it's no problem. But
Okay.
you want to see if they've got the yard cleaned up, see if they've got a lot of junk laying around the property. You want to check the property to see, if there's any peeling paint. It's an older house. I think, what is it, built in 1959. So, if anything that's pre-1960, 65 is going to have lead-based paint. So you just want to make sure none of the exterior paint is peeling, and if the paint on the interior is peeling, that they've painted it. So these are all the little things that you'll get. These are all little fine nuances, and you get it by doing the disclosures. All that stuff is the stuff that you're going to be explaining to the clients as you go. But this one was a little bit harder. You're going to have that window of opportunity. You're going to go look at the property, and then when you come back, then we'll slide up and down that range of solds and everything and comparables and place a price on it. That's the evaluation process. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take all that stuff and you're going to put it in this, like the Toolkit CMA, which is Century 21's kind of canned presentation. I used to just bring the comps with myself with some photographs, and I would explain to them how I get to it. But I'll tell you, that Toolkit CMA, like the top agents, well, one of the top agents at the office used to use it. And that was a really nice thing because you can build it really quickly. It's self-propagated, and it has a lot of the information that you may not bring to a normal presentation. Like it has your reviews on Zillow. It has your reviews through the Century 21 system. I have my resume in there. There's a lot of little tips and hints that you may not tell your clients or remember to tell your clients, but it's included in that package, as well as the comparables. I put in my own net sheet breakdown, which is something that we're going to learn on Thursday. with Chicago Title. Like it used to be that you'd have to get together with a title person. Well, back in the old days when I got in real estate, you had to go to a title person. They do a net sheet for you. They pull up some comps. All this information you had to wait for somebody to get you. But nowadays you can do it all online. As a matter of fact, I can do a whole CMA from my phone if I had to. So, you know, if you're going to an appointment and let's say we set the price, like Noi goes over there, she sees the property, she thinks the house is a little beat up. Let's say we set it at that 495. The sellers want to test the market at 500. You know, you can whip up a net sheet from your phone directly from them and just text it to them, email it to them. And if there's a wireless printer around, you can actually print it up for them as well. So they'll know where, you know, what they're going to be netting at any price. You'll know what they're going to be netting at any price. And, you know, it's more of a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Yours is going to be a two-stop though.
Question.
Sure.
Sorry. So when you guys do go to the house and say he says, oh, the roof might need repairs, is it our job to make deductions or just
general deductions? You know,
okay,
you don't, you know, I mean, if he wants to think about replacing the roof, I mean, just come to me and I'll give you a ballpark.
I see.
There's two things wrong with that. If the roof, the price for a roof is one thing, but the timing to get the roof done is really bad right now. The really good roof companies, they're like 2 or 3 months back. So, I mean, I like to use very reputable companies. So it's kind of tough to get a roofer out there right away. So if you're waiting 2 or 3 months to get a roof done, you might as well just credit the buyers like a dollar amount, depending on what kind of loan they have. So you'll learn. Like there's really there's 4 kind of loans, but there's really 3. There's a conventional loan of different varying down payments. And depending on how much down you have, the level of mechanical soundness the property has to have.
It'll be conventional loans, it'll be 20% down, Mish?
5, 10, 15, 20, you know. When you get to that 20%, you know, the property could be pretty banged up and the lenders will be pretty lenient on it. But anytime you get under 20%, they want the property to be pretty good shape. So they've been a little more lenient than they had been maybe about the middle of last year, but it just depends on the appraiser. FHA, like that's the 3.5% down and it's a government loan. The property has to be in sound working order. So
what's the credit score for FHA, like roughly?
It used to be 640, but I think they raised it up to 670 right now, just because of the whole Corona thing. So, and then conventional, just the higher the better, you know. But you do need to have a certain amount of money down. So, on an FHA loan, and I know this, I'm probably throwing too much stuff at you guys right now. I don't want you guys to drown in this all, but on an FHA deal, one of the good things are that you can get in for a lower interest rate and you can get in with less money. But the private mortgage insurance, because there's a higher likelihood that if you have less money down, that you're going to default on the property. The PMI, the private mortgage insurance, sticks with the property the entire 30 years that it's in existence. On a conventional loan, once you get past that, you know, 20% equity, then you can have the PMI taken off. So it's one thing that, you know, a good way for you to keep in touch with your clients that buy, you know, conventionally, or if they're FHA buyers, you might want to have them refinance once they have enough equity into the property. But anyway, that's that one in a nutshell. And hopefully is your property a little more standard? I mean, is it something that...
My property?
Yeah. Didn't you say you had a foreclosure that you wanted to possibly comp or something?
Oh, yes. It was just a question, so she ended up not sending me the picture.
Okay. Well, a lot of the stuff on Zillow is notice of default and not necessarily full-on foreclosure. So if they had the address on that, we could have looked it up online and saw if it was actually foreclosed on. I don't have I should probably send you guys a copy of this later. But there's an area on the prop. Ooh, I can't get it to show on the property
Oh,
profile.
I see it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's here somewhere, where it shows like any foreclosure history. So if it's actually in foreclosure, it'll show you the date that the notice of default was on there, and then
Mhm.
when the actual bank took it back. Okay. If they've
Okay.
taken it back, they probably have a real estate agent that's already representing that property. But you never know because there's private banks that are local too that handle foreclosure differently.
Right.
All right, Dominic, you said you wanted to comp a
I
property.
do.
Is that one in the city? I hope.
Yes, I do got a property.
Okay.
So the address, let me see, my screen's messing up here. It's 4187 North Carnegie. This is the one I want to possibly help maybe the seller list this one.
Okay. All right, let's go to that. Okay, same technique. We're going to go to the tax
Okay.
record, and we're going to start entering the info. Boy, the internet's a little slow today.
Let's see what's going on here.
Okay, 4187 North Carnegie. Okay, here we go. All right, there we go. That looks like something that might be easy to do. All right, and you're right. Anything that might, I drive a Datsun 510, so whenever I see 510 in the APN, I know it's in 93722. So just a fact for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna go print this out and I'll be right back.
Okay. Let's see.
This is a little slow today. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Um,
All right, this appointment may be a little easier to do. This is probably one where we can, although Marcia says that you should always go with 2 appointments, this is one you can probably show up and probably get this one knocked out in 1 appointment. Yeah, I'm going ahead and I'm highlighting the information that's pertinent about the property. Owner's name, age of home, square footage, bedrooms and baths. And I just highlight them just so it's a little, oh man, I can't get that to show up. A little easier to see. But anyway, same thing. We're gonna go to the square footage and everything. And I'm gonna pull up the calculator. And this guy is a good size. It's 1,610 square feet. So we're going to multiply that by 20%, 0.2,
Go.
which is going to give us a variance of 322 square feet up or down.
where's the 20% come from?
It's just a general rule of thumb for the appraisers that they can only use properties that are bigger and smaller than the square footage of the property by 20%. So
Mitch, when you said you were when you were using that technical jargon, you said that 20%, that's not the equity you were explaining to the appraiser?
yeah, that's it. It's 20% GLA. It's gross living area.
And that's what that number is, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you know, it's kind of funny. It's appraiser talk, you know. So when you write that all down, and I have a PowerPoint presentation I'll do for you guys one of these days, and it's when you meet with the actual appraiser, and they like to hear that because most real estate agents don't speak that language. So when they hear you bring out certain key words, they're like, "Oh, this guy knows what he's talking about."
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah,
Sounds nice
and
too.
it just shows that you're a little bit more competent. And just, I got a really nice compliment from this one veteran appraiser. And she goes, you know what? I have never talked to somebody like you before. And I'm like, why? You know, it's like, she goes, well, you know, most agents aren't willing to learn about what we do and they don't understand it. Then they're always yelling at us, you know, about it. I'm like, why? We all work on the same team. You know, we're trying to get something put together. All we're doing is, you know, just intellectualizing it, you know? So we're all on the same side. I think that's what the problem is. You know, a lot of realtors, you know, when you're good and you're selling a lot of properties, I think it goes to your head sometimes. And, you know, I can pull out anything, but you can only do what the appraisers will allow you to do. And that's what it really comes down to. So anyway, okay, we'll get that 322 subtracted out from that 1610. And we get a minimum of square footage of 1288. Well, you know what? I just realized I recorded all this, huh? You guys better not play this for anybody. I was just thinking about that.
Private video.
That's right. Let's see, what did I say? 16, 10 plus 3, 22 gives us an upper limit of 1,932 square feet. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to the MLS. We'll do a radius search. And by the way, after I do any one of these evaluations, I'll usually save it as a saved search, or I'll save it as like a prospect. So this one I'll save as Noy Belmont. And then after she goes back to look at that property, I can just go up to my saved searches, and Noy's property by alphabetical order will be in there. A lot of these properties are properties that I've sold in the past. And when it comes to them being able to resell, I'll already have their information saved for future use. So there's Noy's Belmont property. So I don't have to put in the square footage. I don't have to put in all, you know, all that, the area stuff that I had put in there before. So
Gives you lots of time.
yeah, saves a lot of time. Yeah, you bet. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we're gonna go down to radius again. And let's get you a price. 41.87. Oops. Okay, we're going to compare against residential, single family, pendings, and solds going back 6 months. And we've got 16, okay, that's healthy, all right? Because
16
this is
what
a
is it?
pretty homogeneous neighborhood. You know, they're very similar in size, very similar in age, and it's probably a big tract that it's in, so.
What's the 16 minutes?
Go ahead.
What
Yeah,
is the 16 number?
Yeah, there were 16 right here in the preview
Oh,
page. Okay.
16 comparable, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, so far we've only put in location and area. So the default for the area is a 1/4 mile. And then this is just things that are around this property. So within a 1/4 mile, there's 16 properties that are active, pending, or sold. And then we're going to put in the structure so that we only get the ones that the appraisers will look at. And then we whittled that 15 down to 11. That's still good. Okay. So that's good enough to go look at. Right. We're going to.
So you do all this and then you give to the appraiser? Is it what you do, Miss? Or
Yeah. Because ultimately we're going to be meeting with the appraiser one way or another. And rather than having someone else represented, I always offer my services by meeting with the appraiser, whether I represent the buyers or the sellers. Okay. Some listing agents like to meet the appraisers, but hardly anybody does. Okay. I got a listing and I sold it for more than what the other agents were saying because I could prove to the seller that I can get the price that I'm claiming. All these other guys were trying to lowball this property because in the comps it showed, yeah, you know, that these properties were sold lower, but this was a newer property in an older subdivision. So sometimes you have to use your logic. Why would this new property sell in this old neighborhood, and for less? It's got to be more. And then I happened to do exactly the same thing. I showed the appraiser all the information. I gave him my logic. I showed him how I boxed everything together, and he goes, "Yeah, you're right, man. This is exactly where you need to be." So that's how you get listings, by using your logic and using your comps.
But
So-
I kind of confused. I thought the appraiser who the one to tell us what the property
Well,
was.
you want, like, I could have went with everybody else and just said,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, this is what the appraisal looks like," but
Okay.
it doesn't make sense because this is a newer property. It has more demand, and there was a ton of people interested in that property. So I knew I had it priced right. I think we had 5 offers, one after the other, and these guys did some incredible overbidding when we were doing it. So that's a whole nother thing. Negotiating is a whole nother science, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, these are the active properties at 359, 259, 235. That's pretty tight. It's pretty tight range. Okay, a low at 200. Bill Nazaroff does foreclosures, so maybe that's one of his deals. So we're looking at a low end of about 195 and a high end of about 270. Okay.
Okay.
And that's pretty tight. This property is what, 1610 square feet?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no model matches, like exact properties. This one's not it. And this one was built in 1997. So this is probably like a similar build, 235.
What year the property
The
built?
subject was built in 1997. Okay, since we have so many, what you're going to start doing is you're going to start breaking down the condition. Like we still haven't seen this property yet, so we're not sure of what the condition is. But once you've seen the property, like you're gonna introduce yourself to the sellers. You're gonna have them walk through the property, show you what amenities they have, any upgrades that they've done. Ask them why they chose that particular property, because the most likely person that's going to also be interested in that property is going to have the same feelings or the same necessities. So, always ask those questions. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use either your memory or take photographs of the property. I do that from time to time. And then just compare it by the photography. And hopefully everybody's got good photography. I'm telling you, if you're not taking good photos, you're really wasting your time. And this is another thing. See how this is, can you guys see these photos on the bottom?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. They say nowadays they used to say your average buyer online has about a 9-second attention span. Well, now in 2020, their attention span's about 6 seconds. So rather than unfolding all these photographs in the number and order in which they were done, because this guy obviously took the outside photo, side, front, back, living room, walkway. Put whatever photo is the most appealing second, okay?
Okay.
Because you need to captivate their attention right away so that they will see the photographs to the back, to the very end. I'll be honest. I have the same mentality when I'm looking at properties. If it's not something captivating, I'm not going to look all the way to the end. But if it catches my attention right from the get-go, I'm more likely to look at all the photographs all the way through. Like, I'm a car guy, so I like shops and garages and really, cool, RV parking and stuff like that. If that's the most appealing thing about the property, that's the second, third, and fourth photographs of the property. So just keep that in mind. And when you go on appointments, point out those little things, because those are the things that make a difference, believe it or not. You only have a few seconds to make a good impression on people, and that's one of the things that will help you. Okay.
These photos right here are probably not the best marketing photos you're saying, Mitch?
It's just in the wrong order. That's all.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this property is probably not bad. It looks like it's pretty clean. They've obviously, meticulously cleaned the carpets. You can see the carpet lines and stuff like that. It's not highly upgraded, but I doubt that there's too many that are upgraded in that range. So it's just an okay, this is an okay house and it's priced at 235, okay? Your guys are on the higher end of the square footage at 1610, so let's find something that's that way. This one's a 2-story. Hate to compare it to that one. Let's see what the photographs look like on that. Yeah, you see, they've done the same thing. You know, it's kind of like gone from boring front picture to boring interior picture. And these I can tell are done on the cell phone, man.
Yeah. Yep. You can tell difference.
Yeah, I mean, you get Juan Carlos out there, you'll see a big difference. Yeah, I mean, this is a nice house and it's got a nice side yard. They should have, like, the second photograph should have been like from the back of the house, projecting all the way to the back of the house. You can see how big that lot is, probably. But, I mean, even the interior photos are pretty nice. They're just in the wrong order. Okay, this is at 300. So this is probably knocking on the upper limit. There you go. That's the photo. That should have been the second photo.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have got to this photo had I waited that long. You know what I mean? I mean, those photos were horrible. I mean, come on, man. I mean, these are really bad.
Yeah.
You know, compared to the last photos, which were awesome, right? So, what they might have done, you know, now that I'm looking at the photographs, I bet you anything they took some photos before and they just threw them in the MLS. Then they hired a pro to go out there and actually take professional photos, and they just added them on to the end of the presentation. The number of photos actually matters too. The more photos you have, the higher you are on Google's SOI, you know, so that your property shows up more on the internet. So
yeah, that 30 like 30 to 40 photos, that comfortable range, would you recommend?
Around 25, you know, I mean, like, these houses are kind of small, so you're going to be really struggling to have 20, but around that range is where you start getting a little bit more presence online. And if you have a video attached to it, that actually raises the SOI really high. So, okay. So I'm sorry, I'm going off track and everything. Go ahead. Do you have a question?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Nope. Good to go.
So yeah, we're still looking for a price. Let's say this property was really fixed up, granite countertops, laminate flooring, all fixed up and updated. You know, you would look for one that's probably on the top side. It's a little bit bigger, and kind of derive the price on that one. This is really, I mean, hardly any of these houses are really fixed up. If they're all not fixed up, and yours probably isn't either, then just go with the one that's probably closest in square footage. So it's going to be in between that 259 or 260. I'd say 260 is probably a really good price for that property. Although these are 4 bedrooms, yours is 3. Maybe 255 to 260 is probably about the right range, and that's just going off of that. I mean, like I said, I don't know what the interior of the property is, but if it was spot on, it's going to be on the higher side of these two comps right here. I know that doesn't sound like an exact science and everything, but that's basically what you're going to do, and you're going to spell it out to the appraiser exactly how we did it. You know, pulled up the property by radius search with a GLA larger and smaller than 20%. I went out to a quarter mile, and that's all we went, right?
Yes, I think so.
So yeah.
Okay, all that information should be in there. Yeah, quarter mile. So within that quarter mile radius, there was 11 properties. Due to the condition and upgrades of the property, of properties of similar square footage, we derived the price between 255 and 260. So that's just the jargon that you're going to do and everything, and how you're going to explain it. Like I said, this one's a way easier one. If you were going to go in to price this property, you could walk into that property and give them a price right there on the spot. So then you would derive that, whatever that upper limit is on your app, from Chicago Title, text it over to them, and they know exactly how much they're going to net. So, alrighty.
Sounds good. And that upper limit again, that's looking at these 11 properties right here, or how's that upper limit derived?
Yeah, I mean, the upper limit, like, let's say if it was really, really fixed up, you're going to be looking at probably exceeding this 270. This house wasn't fixed up hardly at all, right? So you might bump it up to like, and this is where knowledge comes in. Like, you always want to ask somebody who's got the heart, their heart on the, fingers on the pulse of the market. Appraisers are very conservative right now because of the market, so you may not want to push it up too high. If they have everything on the planet, maybe you might go 15 to 20,000 over, but I really wouldn't recommend that. It's probably going to be within 10. So no matter what you put into it, because this is kind of a more entry level property, so they're going to try to keep it in that entry level realm. You don't want to be the most expensive property in the cheapest neighborhood. You want to be the opposite. You want to be the cheapest property in the nicest neighborhood. So, all right, you guys got that?
Yep, appreciate it.
Okay, I know it's not an exact science because it's all by comparison, but that's the process. You're just going to be comparing photographs outside of, just the general 20% square footage availability. I guess that's a pretty good kind of dichotomy of both something that's unusual and then something that's very, cookie cutter. So anyway.
Pretty effective. Very effective.
Okay, but that's this portion of it in a nutshell. After that, it's going to be packaging it up in, the Toolkit CMA or however you guys like to do it. And then after that, it's a little bit of showmanship. So we'll work on that. I think they're going to be talking about that in the next classes and everything. So
cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Guys, was that too maybe not tight enough, or was that too?
No, that was great. My only question now is, say we do get to this property, the one you're looking at, what are you looking for exactly when you say interior? What are you looking for?
What you want to do is, and it's really bad because you don't want me to come over to your house because I'm gonna look at everything. I'm gonna look for cracks and any kind of water damage. There's a lot of things that we'll have to walk through a house one of these days, and we can look through a lot of things. You want to look for cracks. You want to look for water stains. You want to look for discoloration. You're going to look at the flooring to see how clean it is or if they've done any upgrades. You want to look at the cleanliness of like the appliances. There's a lot of roof things that, and I hate to say that because there's some things that you can pick out, with experience, and there's some things that you shouldn't be picking out because we're not qualified. Like looking at a tile roof, I mean, you can see cracks and stuff like that, but it's hard to tell if a tile roof is leaking or not. Obviously, you're going to look at the ceiling, and then another trick is you're going to look inside the closets. So hall closets, bedroom closets, rarely do people paint the ceilings of closets. So if there was a leak in the property, something pre-existing, you'd want to always look into the closet and pull open the door and look upwards because, they're more than likely if they had a leak or anything like that, they're not going to patch it up in there. Not to saying the sellers are dishonest, but that's just one of the things that I look at.
Gotcha.
You always want to take your leg and put it next to the toilet and kind of lean on it. And what you're looking for is any kind of water intrusion from the toilet. If it's a raised foundation, you'll notice if the flooring around the toilet and the tubs are weak, or if the toilet moves, that means that there's probably some kind of water intrusion or termite intrusion there. If it's a concrete foundation, you just want to look for discoloration and you want to make sure that nothing moves, We're not home inspectors, so we're not supposed to be doing all that stuff. It's up to the home inspection to be done. But those are little things that you can do that, you can point out. That's going to save you some headaches later on in the transaction if you're the listing agent or if you're the buying agent.
Well, you point out to the owner?
Oh, yeah. Some of the things you can point out too is, all the properties have to have water heater strapping, 2 of them, top and bottom. and they have to be on like a regular approved water heater strapping. There's an FHA one that has bolts in the middle. Some of the older properties just have like a band, like a sheet of, I think it's like tin or something like that, that are screwed against the wall. That's actually not acceptable anymore. They have to be bolted. There's just a ton of little things to look at, but once you've done it a few times, you'll have an eye for it. So there's a couple tricks, and if you want to look like a genius, it doesn't happen all the time, but if you're in like a rural property, like noise property, a lot of times, you can go up to the bathtub and knock on the bathtub. They're supposed to be hollow, right? If you knock on it and it's solid, sometimes gophers have gone through the bottom of the house to get into the water, and they bring all that dirt up, man. And I've seen it twice, and it is like the agents are like, the sellers are like, damn, how did you know that? It's just experience, right? So every once in a while, you might be able to pull that one out of the hat if it happens to be that way. So
good to know. Yeah.
But guys, there's so many things that you're going to learn, and there's so many things that you're going to be doing. I hate to flood you with a whole bunch of them right now. I know I should have probably kept it really tight and everything, but I really think that you guys are going to do well. You guys have different niches that you're going to be able to utilize, a different sphere of influences that I think you guys are going to definitely be able to utilize in so many different ways. And, when I look and think about the agents that are doing really well, like, I just went to one of the Asian grocery stores. I went to RN Market, and I saw somebody's real estate photo. And it's this lady, she's Chinese, and she's been in the business for a long time, but she's still using the photograph of herself from back when I got into real estate, like 30 years ago. And I'm like thinking, you don't look like that anymore. Come on now, man. It's time for a new generation to take over those different people and places and processes and everything like that. I have a lot of faith that you guys will do really well. So, and you guys have been very good about letting me know what you guys want to learn about and everything, and I really appreciate that. So
Well,
Yeah. Thank you for your time. We do appreciate
my
it.
pleasure. It's a tough time that you guys have come into right now, because there's no figuring out what direction we're going in yet. But when we come out of this thing, I know it's going to be hot and heavy, so you guys got to be ready.
Do you is the market expected to take a dip, or that's kind of what a lot of people have been asking and bringing up. I feel like
what's his name? Mike Ferry says that the agents that are active are going to be making a lot of money right now because there's so little competition right now. A lot of people are huddled up at home, and it's understandable. It's a life or death kind of thing, right? I'd rather be alive than making money.
Yeah. You make money for what if you die?
Yeah, exactly.
so
They're saying that it may take like a dip in the next 2 months, but if they can get some kind of green light that the business is going to continue, I think it's going to be very brisk, because I'm no big time agent, but I've got a lot of listings waiting to come on the market, and there's a lot of people. The beginning of this year, it was a 30% increase in the number of buyers that were applying for loans. So that is a really good combination. It's going to be quick, and it's going to be for a short amount of time. But the people that you talk to right now, the people that, your friends, your family, people you do business with, it's going to be really brisk when it starts. So it kind of reminds me of like 2003, when the market, anybody could sell real estate at that market, man. I tell you, man. You couldn't bid high enough on properties because there was just the right amount of buyers and sellers, and then it went crazy. After that, I couldn't predict what to buy a property for. But I think it's going to be brisk like that.
So it's definitely you would say definitely a good time to be an agent actively selling.
Yes, most definitely. It may be short lived, but those people that, what do they say? The best ability is availability, right? So you guys will hopefully have your licenses, and when we come out of this thing, you guys will be ready to hit the road. Don't be afraid. Like, I know you guys have buyers right now. The best thing you can do is get them qualified. And then, I don't know if your guy pays cash or what, but you just want to, touch base with him and ask him what kind of, if he has a preferred lender that he uses. and get them qualified and get them ready to roll, man.
Okay.
If they're looking right now, show the few properties that you can, because there's not a lot of competition against people right now. So don't be afraid to show them property right now. Just vacant is preferred. And then if you have to go into a house like I did, just make sure that you have all the apparatus, you know, mask and gloves and booties and all that kind of stuff, and just be prepared as best you can. So,
Well, I cannot show him anything, right? Because I cannot
you
go
know,
in.
I think John, if you guys need to, I think John will allow me to show you guys through the property. I'll let you guys do all the talking. I'll just open up the property while you go along.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Artemis, well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully that helped you out a little bit. Now we'll get going from here. So
Tremendous.
Yeah. I have a question about that. My website thing. You think it's gonna get fixed pretty soon, or?
you know, that's a good question, because boy, I tell you, I'm trying to fix this one problem that I'm having with Ryan's account right now.
All right.
Century
See you guys
21.
later.
Right. See you, Dominic.
Thank you.
See you, Dominic.
And we'll see if we can get that fixed. So, all right, guys. Well,
All right. Thank you,
thanks for
Miss.
joining me. And then I will post up the video later on YouTube.
Okay, Miss. Thank you for your time. You
All right.
take
Bye,
care.
guys. See you, Mike.
Bye.
All right,
See you.
bye-bye.